It was a busy day in the Buffalo Common Council chambers yesterday. The council denied a proposed emergency homeless shelter that was supposed to be located along East Ferry Street.
The council also held an emergency session to address a possible freeze in federal funding for important programs in the city. To talk more about this, right now we are joined by Maston District Councilwoman Zeneta Everhart. Zeneta, thank you so much for coming in this afternoon.
Thank you for having me, of course.
First, let's begin with the emergency shelter.
Yes.
For those who don't know, first let's catch our viewers up to speed. What was Family Promise asking for?
Yeah, so Family Promise is actually they're an emergency shelter that currently exists, right? So this isn't a new thing for the city of Buffalo. They currently exist downtown on Hickory Street. It is an organization that, under my previous job with then Senator, now Congressman Kennedy, we did a lot of work with this organization, right? And so they stand as an emergency shelter. Basically what they do is they house families, right? So as we know, a lot of families when, they are faced with eviction and, they end up homeless, right? And they have nowhere to go. A lot of times the families have to be broken apart. And so one of the things that Family Promise does is they keep the family together, right? Because a lot of times some shelters don't take men, they only take women and children and things like that. And so their goal really is just to keep the families together. And so they are proposing to build another one because they are seeing a very high need, right? People are they're going through hard times right now, right? And rents are skyrocketing right now in the city of Buffalo. And, people are falling on hard times and they need help, right? And so that is one of the things that they do. And they reached, I think it was Erie County who reached out to them saying, hey, are you interested in building another shelter? We need more help. We need more space for people to live, right, who are dealing with hard times. And so they were proposing to build a site on East Ferry Street in the Maston District, right near East Ferry and Jefferson. And so, they came to me. I told them, hey, look, yes. Right? Listen, and I'm very open and honest about my background and my story. I am someone who has dealt with homelessness before, and so I understand the need of having somewhere safe to take, your family and your children to. And so, I told them, listen, reach out to the community because that is one thing that I do. I am a councilwoman, but I'm also a resident, right? And so I know what it feels like to have things just put in your neighborhood without your input. And so, I told them, go talk to the community, talk to the residents who live in that area, see what they think about it. But even still, as a councilwoman, when I signed that paperwork for them to, try and go forward with this project, that goes out to the neighbors in the community. They get mail from the city saying, hey, they're trying to propose this thing in your neighborhood. You are welcome to come to a public hearing to talk about it.
It seems like the argument from the community, or at least those who showed up to those public hearings and the zoning hearings, was they were afraid of this being a transient homeless population. That is, people coming and going, a lot of traffic, and possibly a lot of illegal activity. Those are all those generalizations that were coming to the forefront. But you point out, and Family Promise pointed out, that's not what this shelter is intended for. It's intended for something that is more permanent. Temporary, but permanent that way.
Right.
How come those two sides couldn't come together? Because those are two very different things.
I think that, and you're right? People had misconceptions on what Family Promise is and what they do. And like I said, I would not have signed up to say, yes, I think this is a possible good project if I didn't trust that mission, right? Because this is my neighborhood too. I live right there where they were proposing this, right? And so, but one of the things that for me, right, is we have to have those conversations. They're going to be tough conversations, and they should happen, no matter how uncomfortable and how tough they are. But for me, it was listening to the actual needs of the people, right? Yes, I read through everything that Family Promise sent me, and they have a compelling argument, but so does the residents in the community, right, who live there. And then you have to think about where they're proposing to build it, which is going to abut up to people's homes, right? And so that, for me, was the biggest issue, right? Like, I don't want people living in their homes feeling uncomfortable. Whether, no, I don't believe that, the crime exists in this. I don't think that it is, to the level where, people would be in danger or anything like that, but it is just the fact that this new building is going to abut to people's homes, and that causes the problems. And I did my research, right, looking at shelters in different communities, and are there houses around there? Has the crime increased? Things like that. Property values, right? We have to think about that. And so one of the things was a big issue with the residents was their property values. And through my research, I found that that is going to be an issue for them, right? And so I don't ever want to come in between that, right? People should be able to have equity in their homes and things like that, and I don't ever want to, come in and not let that be realized for our residents in our community. And so I decided to deny the application because it is about community harmony. If we can't come to some sort of understanding and agreement together, it can't move forward.
Very quickly, before we do move on to our next topic, just want to make sure we note we did receive a statement from Family Promise. And essentially they said they are disappointed, but they do respect the decision-making process of the council, and essentially that they're going to regroup to see that they can make this happen in the future.
Yeah.
So let's move now on to our other topic where we have you here talking about the federal funding freeze. Tell us a little bit about that emergency meeting yesterday.
Yeah, so the Common Council held an emergency meeting as well as the Bureau Board held an emergency board meeting because we're in a news station, right? We're all watching the news. We're all listening and hearing what's coming down from the federal government. And with this, out of nowhere freeze on federal grants and loans, I mean, that could be catastrophic for our community, not just Buffalo, across the country, right? We have to think about what our federal grants and what those loans, what they go towards, what they fund. And specifically here in the city of Buffalo, right, we have a lot of programs that depend on those federal dollars, right? We have people's salaries that are dependent on those federal dollars. And so we had to do an emergency session and an emergency Bureau Board meeting so that way we could draw down from that funding, so that way we would not lose that funding. People would still be able to apply to the programs that they currently apply to, right? These are programs that fund, if you need an emergency roof, or if you need an emergency, rental assistance, right? Or if you need an emergency furnace. These are programs that are operating daily in the city of Buffalo with federal funding, and we can't lose that. And as well as the people who are administering those programs, they're paid through a federal grant.
So my question was going to be why Bureau and not maybe other organizations, but what I'm hearing you say is that Bureau represents or covers a number of organizations. So
Absolutely.
Some of the things you're talking about is it's essentially going with the largest organization or a large organization that has its responsibilities, if you will, in a multitude of different things across the city.
So many different things.
Gotcha.
So many different things that Bureau covers, and we could not sit and watch. And, we didn't know that, there was going to be a federal, a court was going to come in and say there's going to be a pause, right? We did not know that they were going to say, we didn't know that. In the moment, we had the information we had, and we had to act on it. And that was the most important thing to do, because we have to protect our residents.
A lot of these organizations we're hearing from today, because there's a tremendous amount of confusion, even still today, now that the memo has been rescinded by the Trump administration. A lot of these organizations are saying, okay, we're kind of back to square one, we're in planning phases, but we are planning for another executive order. What is the city of Buffalo doing, or the Common Council, to prepare for that?
We are doing exactly what we did yesterday, right? Yes, we, made sure that we held that emergency session so that way we could protect that funding. But what I also did, I took it one step further. As a councilwoman, I deal with a lot of nonprofits in my community who, depend on federal funding. And so I literally made calls after those sessions all day yesterday, checking in with the nonprofits that I personally deal with and that my office deals with to find out, are you receiving federal funding? Do you have federal grants that are making sure that your lights are on and things like that? Because I want that list, right? Because again, we don't know if they'll, he'll try to do an executive order. We don't know what's going to happen. And so we need to prepare so we know what organizations are dependent on that funding. So that way, no, listen, the city is in financial straits. That is we can't hide that, right? But we can prepare and know who is going to be directly affected, so that way we can figure out how to help them best in the future if something like this does come back to us.
All right, Buffalo Common Councilwoman Zeneta Everhart, there's always a lot to talk about.
Always.
Thank you so much for coming in this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.